Welcome back to episode 19 of the Bullpen. Opening day of IHSA is today. We're recording on Monday, so it's today. So we have the Kickoff Classic this week. A lot of awesome stuff happening. We just released our Power 25, but first things first, guys, how you doing? I know you had you were up in Madison yesterday for the event up there, but how you guys doing?
Good. No, it was kind of the end of the winter for me because I know next week I'll be at the Kickoff Classic. So no, it was really talented. But no, I mean it's like Christmas today, right? The season finally starts. So it's kind of like what we're all looking forward to throughout the year, throughout the winter. I mean, this is the best part of our jobs. So yeah, I'm sure we're all fired up. I know I am about it. But yeah,
Are any of you guys getting up at 5 a.m. tomorrow to watch the Cubs opening day game out there in Tokyo?
no.
I will not be doing that. I might be getting up at 5, but it's not going to be to watch the Cubs. Probably because one of the kids had a rough night, but doesn't really feel like opening day. To be honest with you, typically opening day there's snow falling, tons of wind, 30 degrees, but it looks like it's going to be a nice week. Games should be rolling, from today on, and I say today, I know we're talking Monday here, and this will release on Wednesday, but man, all week the temperatures look great. I know there's a couple spotty days in there, but all things considered, since I've been doing this, I don't remember an opening week looking this good weather-wise. So guys should be ready to rock and roll. Typically, we're going to the Kickoff Classic, and it's the first time for some of these northern teams to get outside. And that will not be the case this year. There's been all kinds of teams getting outside for the last couple weeks since tryouts started. But yeah, I'm pumped, Gavin.
Yeah, so the Kickoff Classic starts Wednesday, so this will be released on Wednesday, so it will be starting this afternoon, and it goes until Saturday. We've got 46 teams playing down there in the Metro East area from all across the state. Some big-time matchups throughout the week. We've got Normal Community versus Edwardsville, Joliet Catholic versus Edwardsville, Joliet Catholic versus O'Fallon, New Trier versus Mascoutah, Triad versus Morris. But the Kickoff Classic, it should be an awesome week of games. I'm excited to get down there and see some of these teams and see some of these Chicago matchups for Central Illinois, Southern Illinois matchups, and should be good. So I don't know if you guys have anything you want to add to that, but feel free.
I was just going to say, I think it's nice at the Kickoff Classic. I remember last year was my first one, but you usually get some Power 25 matchups. We're going to touch on that here in a little bit, but it's a good measuring stick, I think, right out of the gate for us when we do this Power 25 and we get to, stack these teams on top of each other and see how they do head-to-head. So I know you mentioned, like, Community versus Edwardsville, JCA Edwardsville, like, those are two, I want to say, top 15 matchups. So I think that's the cool thing is you're going to get some really good games down there this week.
And not just Power 25 matchups, right? Like Power 25 matchups from different parts of the state. So like, the Edwardsville and JCA matchup, they're probably not going to typically play each other if there's no Kickoff Classic, right? Until like maybe they meet later down the line. But no, you just run into some cool ones like that, like New Trier, Mascoutah as well, Triad, Morris. Like a lot of these are Power 25 matchups, but they're like the complete opposites of the state, and we get to see it. So it's really cool.
And I just want to shout out Tim Funkhauser, Edwardsville's head coach, kind of puts this whole thing together, maps out the schedules, does all the umpires. There is a lot of logistics to this. So shout out, for that. And I love that we're, able to be a part of this. And we're planning on bringing down a big crew so we can cover as many fields as possible. On that Friday, Saturday, though, it gets loaded. We won't be at every single field, but we will be out and about seeing as many good matchups as we can. And I think you guys hit it, right on the head there with everything you were saying. I love, like, we're going to see pretty much teams from all across the state, all areas. And there's going to be a couple guys that pop that maybe we wouldn't see us Staunton, on a normal day, and we're seeing them the first week of the season. So it's like, hey, cross-checking these guys, getting these guys coming out of the winter, and it's like, oh man, okay, we need to see this team again, or this team's way better than we thought, or this prospect is way better than we thought. We need to get another look at them, whatever it may be. So just a really, really good way to see a ton of baseball the first week of the season.
Yeah, we'll turn it over to some of these college scores from the past weekend. If you guys see anything that kind of sticks out to you, feel free just to hop in there. But first thing on Friday, Illinois beat Valpo 13-9, and Luke Weber got in and had 2 innings in relief, struck out 2, walked none, allowed no runs, and only allowed a hit. So good outing there in relief for Luke Weber. But I mean, guys, do you see anything else down here on the list? Like, we don't need to
I
go
see
through
another
every
Kenny
game.
Perez sighting. I know I
Yeah,
touched on him last week or 2 weeks ago, so it's really good to see Kenny's hitting well, especially as a freshman right out of the gate. Seems like he's having really no issue acclimating to Division One baseball out of the gate. But also Luke Weber, like both those guys, were 2022 future gamers for us. So I think that's really cool that both guys are off to hot starts.
yeah, and looking at Illinois State on Saturday, 2 Illinois guys, Shy Robinson and Dan Pacella showing out. Robinson went 3 for 5 with a homer, 2 RBIs, 2 runs scored, and Pacella went with 4 for 4 with with a double, 2 runs and a walk. So that's cool to see. Colin Jennings too, a Marist kid, 2 for 3 with a homer, 2 RBIs, 2 runs and a walk in Illinois' win over Valpo on Saturday. And then Tyler Capron from Peoria for Eastern Illinois. He started through 6.2 innings, struck out 5, walked 3, allowed 1 run and 6 hits. I know we talked about him a few weeks back. I think that was closer to opening weekend for him when he had another good outing. But it's cool to see he's continuing to find success. But yeah, I think that kind of wraps it up for some college scores. I mean, there was a lot going on around the state. Um, but
Yeah, but just to
get in there,
touch on
Drew.
Illinois State real quick and Daniel Pasella, but like I just want to break down. He's hitting 433 right now, with 8 doubles and 4 home runs. He's got some of the best power I would say in the Midwest, and then for him to kind of match that with hitting 433 on the year, that's a heck of a start for him. So hopefully that continues to trend that way. I know he's leading Illinois State in hitting. They have a lot of Illinois guys kind of mixed in their positionally in their roster. Looking through some of the notes here, Josh Outlaw, he was a former future gamer, went JUCO. Now he's over there getting some ABs, doing well. Kyle Gibson. We talk about this all the time. Like Jack Zebig got a he got a shout out last week for going, D2 and then transferring to D1, and he's doing it in Illinois right now. But Kyle Gibson went to Millikin, and now he's at Illinois State, and he's one of their leading hitters, left-handed hitter from the Chicagoland area. So wanted to shout that out as well, and hopefully we'll continue. I mean, shoot, as we're talking here, Ryan Mormon, he's a guy that went from Illinois to Ole Miss, and he's absolutely raking down there. He's a Lockport grad. So I'm sure there's going to be more guys that continue to pop up throughout the year that we can touch on.
Yeah, for sure. But let's get into some high school stuff. I mean, the season obviously is starting this week. It's kind of the big news around the state for baseball fans. But we last week talked through, I think it was 25 through 17, or kind of that range of teams that might be ranked in 25 through 17. But this week we will now have our Power 25 officially complete. So we'll kind of talk through some of those teams, basically 16 down to 1, and then some teams to watch. Keep an eye out on throughout the year. But just a reminder, keep an eye out for our scout blogs, daily roundup, diamond notes, and player of the week. That'll be coming out each week now with the high school season started. But yeah, I mean, guys, kicking it off, like Glenwood is number 16 in the Power 25. I mean, they've got Cam Appenzeller and Dylan Huff, so that's probably one of the better 1-2 punches in the state in terms of pitching, I would think. I mean, Appenzeller's one of the top prospects in the country, and he's the number 1 player in the state. And Huff is just another really good arm as well. So I know they've had some injuries in their team, but I mean, their pitching is really good, and they're a team that always finds ways to win. So I think Glenwood there at number 16 just makes sense. But yeah, the next team down, number 15, Huntley, like Hammett, Def. I don't know if you guys want to add anything on them.
Yeah, Huntley's always good, right? When I was digging into them, writing their story, like they're going for their 8th straight Fox Valley title. Like I think a common theme just when looking into the Fox Valley Conference, just how good it is, and the fact that Huntley is going for their 8th straight title. Like It's ridiculous. It's a credit to Coach Jakubowski out there. He runs a fantastic program. I feel like uh, the times I saw Huntley last year, like those guys just play hard, and he gets them to play the right way. Like they're always going to have talent coming through there as well. So last year I feel like they started in a similar spot, but I think the encouraging thing with Huntley is like last year their main contributors were all pretty much sophomores and juniors. So they're all a year older now. But I really like their arms, man. Like Drew Borkowski's a really good arm. They have maybe the best power bat in the state with AJ Putty. Like that guy had, I want to say 11 homers or something ridiculous last spring. So they've got a ton of talent. The thing is just, navigating that conference, but history shows they haven't had too much issue with that over really the last decade. So that's what I got on Huntley.
Yeah, and kind of moving down to Muscuda at number 14. I think they're kind of similar to Glenwood in the way that they have two really legit arms in Austin Musso and Darren Klein. And I was just looking through the stats from last year. I know Darren Klein had really good numbers, and Musso is just a really good arm too. One of the top in the 2025 class. And they've got some other guys too on the mound. I think pitching and defense will probably be some of their strengths. And offensively, I think Muscuda and a lot of these teams, it's kind of they can just put it together. They have good coaching. They have the ability to just score runs and play the game the right way. And I think Muscuda will be one of those top teams in Southern Illinois and just the state as a whole.
And Glenwood, I feel like always is like that. They've got guys up and down their roster, Gavin, that like I'll go watch them play, and I won't know half their roster. Whether it means they're football players, basketball players, just do a whole bunch of stuff down there, and they're athletes. But they're deep. I mean, there's always talent coming through that program. And Muscuda, like we didn't know a couple of their guys until just this past winter. We got to look at them at showcases, and two left-handed hitters that we think could impact the lineup, more than we already knew that they had coming through. So that's always a good sign. It makes us feel a little bit better when we're really trying to figure out the strengths of these clubs. Because let's be honest, there's no perfect science. We're going off a lot of coaches' recommendations, but also our own personal knowledge and what we've seen. And coming in at number 13, I think goes off of a lot of our personal knowledge. And we know most of this roster. And man, they made a huge run last year. But Mount Carmel, another team in that CCL Blue. We mentioned the Fox Valley being a really good league. There's a lot of good leagues around the state, but CCL Blue year in, year out, always one of the top. And man, Mount Carmel, they made it all the way to a super sectional last year. They will be without Ian Tosi this year, but Tyler, fill us in, because I know offensively they look really, really strong. They were young last year and bring back pretty much everybody.
Yeah, I mean, the theme with Mount Carmel to me is like ceiling. That's what I just kept thinking in my head when I'm writing this story is like, all right, they might have one of the higher ceilings out of any team in the state, even without Ian Tosi. Like, they didn't have TJ McQuillan last year, like, who's one of the best bats in the region, and you can make the case nationally when he's healthy. Like, they get him back hopefully for the entire year this year. Anthony Chavez broke out last year. He was awesome. He led the team in pretty much every offensive category. So you get him back, right? So there's also guys like Joey Ireland, Logan Fernandez. The list goes on with Mount Carmel. The biggest thing is like with losing Tosi, right? Somebody's gonna have to step up and be the ace of that staff. Now, it might be Jake Matisse, it might be Connor Ellentenney, who's going to Notre Dame. So the biggest thing is just if they can hit their ceiling, if those guys with a ton of potential can play like we think they can, I wouldn't be surprised if they're playing in Joliet at the end of the year. Like they were one run away from beating Pravi last year in that super sectional game. So it's going to be a dogfight. Like they're in the CCL Blue too, so those guys are going to be battle tested throughout the year. But biggest thing with Mount Carmel is like ceiling for me. They have a super high ceiling.
They've got catchers too. Like we were talking through their team, and it's always like, all right, who's up the middle of the field in high school baseball is very important. They've got Mario Medina behind the plate. They also have Pancho Vasquez, who can do a little bit of everything. So I do like the position they're in. And talking through them, they were a team where if they did have Ian Tosi, they'd be in our top 5 consideration. Yeah. Coming off the year that they had last year. So then it's like, okay, they don't have Tosi, who, for my money, he's one of those guys that if you had to win a game, like he's towards the top of your list on giving him the ball. So that's a huge loss, right? Like we're not minimizing that loss at all. But I think that kind of then warrants, okay, they need to come down a little bit, but where the heck do we slot them in? I think they're in a really good spot here. And shoot, right in front of them is another team that's, no stranger to making deep runs in the postseason. Joliet Catholic at the 3A level. Little different than Mount Carmel. Like, to me, they're going to be really led on the mound with Cooper Kabinski and obviously Lucas Grant going to Purdue, but they've got depth. They're kind of like Muscuda, kind of like Glenwood. Like, they'll bring out some football players on their baseball roster, guys we don't totally know or have a ton of great, info on, but man, they help fill out a lineup and they do some things and they're hard nosed and they're tough and they play Jared Voss type of baseball, which they're going to be hard to beat in the postseason no matter what. But I'm not sure if anybody else had anything on them. They're good up the middle with Simulik and Pomato. Simulik at short, Pomato behind the plate. But go ahead, Pete.
No, I mean pitching is a very common theme on this list. A lot of like the teams that we have ranked here are because they got depth on the mound, right? And Lucas Grant and Cooper Kabinski, two left-handers at that, like that's going to make it, that in and of itself is already a bonus to just having two good arms. They're both left-handed, and then two more southpaws. We got Rocco Zambalin, a junior that he'll run up his fastball around the upper 80s, 90-mile-an-hour mark, and then Brady Tunkel, another southpaw that we really like. And then on like the other hand, now we got more right-handers. Ian Campbell, he'll get into the low 90s. Kyle Christensen, another junior, he'll bump upper 80s. And Jacob Wojciechowski, that last name is.
I think you crushed it.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I think so. Jacob Wojciechowski, junior, upper 80s as well. I mean, they just got arms for days. And then, like you said, Lucas Simulik and Pomato up the middle. If Simulik can really, losing Troyner hurts bad, right? That's like really the main piece they lost with the offensively. So if Simulik can come into his own and really, help carry that lineup, I think that'll be kind of the piece they need to bring them to the next level. But no, we really like them on both sides of the ball. And like you said, it's a small school, right? So everyone they bring in is like, they play multiple sports. They can do a lot of different things. They'll just bring in guys throughout the lineup. And yeah, they're always going to be well-disciplined and well-coached with Jared Voss over there.
No, Hammett, listening to you talk about JCA, go through all their pitchers, like the fact that you've got an Ian Campbell that, doesn't have to be a guy, does not, and it's, hey, guy is ultra talented, like talent through the roof, but maybe needs some more polish or at least like could benefit from some more polish. And JCA is going to be able to, utilize him to his strengths and probably get the most out of him. But having just a back end arm that, like you said, is upper 80s, low 90s, that's just kind of a bonus for you is huge. They also have we at our preseason All-State, I'm upstairs watching some hitting going on, kind of running around at the event, but I get my eyes on John Kurbis, a left-handed hitting sophomore infielder that they have. And it's like, that was my first look at him, and I loved the swing. So they've always got guys coming through like that. They'll surprise us. They're going to be a tough out. They're going to play good ball. And staying in the Chicagoland area, staying with private schools here, we're going to go back to the Chicago Catholic Blue. At number 11, we slotted St. Lawrence. Coach Lotus, Pete Lotus over there, has running the show for a long time. And every single year that he's been under the helm that I've been doing this, they're at the top of the conference. They're sitting in the, top of our Power 25. They've long had talent for days coming through that program. And uniquely enough, kind of like Mount Carmel, they're going to be missing one of their top arms. And left-hander Joe Olson, who's going to Louisville, he'll most likely be out the entire spring. But like Mount Carmel, St. Lawrence has a plethora of arms and guys that are kind of ready to take that next step, be the guy if they have to. And they're going to have a deep lineup as well. And once again, they're another team that, for me, high school baseball, coaching is huge. Teams that don't beat themselves, teams that can score in a multitude of ways, run the bases really good. That's something St. Lawrence hangs their hat on, is running the bases, being able to score, in a number of ways. And I think their club this year should be able to be, no different than years past, and definitely one to watch. So if I missed something on them, I know I didn't really get into the players at all.
No, you're right. I mean, Joe Olson definitely, that's going to hurt. But John Strasowski, he dominated last year. So I think he's more than ready to step up and take up, that ace role. And then Sam Chin right behind him. This is his first year on varsity. He very well could have pitched last year on varsity, I'm sure, as a sophomore, super talented, but they just didn't need him, right? They had a ton of depth. And there's no use in bringing him up to not pitch as much as he could on sophomores, right? Let him develop down there. But I think he has taken the next step for us this past winter. He's seen a tick in velocity. He was up to 87. And even if he's not pitching at 87, right? Even if he's at his, kind of what we've seen in the past, low 80s, just letting him pitch, and, he's got a really good breaking ball, good changeup, that'll be extremely valuable in and of itself. But no, you're right. And you've mentioned in the past, Drew, for them, we'll watch their IO. They'll be 4 guys deep, and they're all really good. And you're like, who's that guy? Who's that guy? Who's that guy? They got a ton of depth, and they're going to be well coached as well. So, yeah, good shout on them. They're definitely one to watch out for this year.
Ryan Wolschlager, I mean, I know we've had some tough last names on this call here already, but he's committed to Pepperdine, and he's not one of their, top 2 arms listed. Maybe he will be. Maybe that's, maybe they didn't list him in order. I don't want to get anybody, frazzled by that statement, but that's another arm that they have coming through. Jimmy Benson's a left-hander that I know has a high ceiling. And there's a lot of other names on that list that are, I'm sure, going to throw quality impact innings for him. And the other thing that I've always been impressed with, Coach Load, they know how to work their bullpen, their relief pitchers. They know how to match up against guys. They do a really good job with that. So St. Lawrence coming in at number 11, and Gavin moving into the top 10 here. Leading us off, number 10, New Trier. And they're unique for me. This is a very unique spring for them, because this is the first year, and shoot, I wish I should have this off the top of my head, but probably the first year in 30 years without Mike Napoleon at the helm. All-time career wins leader in Illinois high school baseball. He finally hung him up after an unbelievable career up there at New Trier. But for the Trevians, who knows? I think it's talking X factors and writing these stories, and what are going to be some X factors for clubs coming around the state. I think the new head coach, and it's Dusty Napoleon, and it's Mike's son, who is a baseball lifer. He was a former Division I coach at Northwestern. He's going to bring a ton of knowledge, and I would not expect any sort of drop off. I think it's unique because it's a different voice in the dugout, kind of leading the charge there. So, but man, they've got a good roster like they do every year, and should be another team to watch.
Yeah, I mean, Max Kaplan, that's the big piece they lost. He's already making a big impact at the Division I level with USC Upstate, but they got a nice arm sliding in to kind of take over that role. Henrik Conniff, I mean, he was an arm that we've really liked in the past, and he had limited action last year. I'm not too sure if he got hurt or what happened, but I know I saw him at the Kickoff Classic, and then I know he really didn't pitch much the rest of the year, so I think he went down with some sort of injury. But he's a really dynamic arm. He can work up to 90 miles an hour, probably low 90s. And he's got swing and miss stuff. He'll overpower lineups, and that's kind of what you feel confidence in that at the high school level. And then they got some interesting arms behind him too, Mason Jurowicz going to St. Leo, nice, really good Division II school. He's a right-hander. Grant Campitelli, we saw him in the fall, another good one. And then Justice Hernandez, an underclassman, along with Harry Reeses and Jackie Ryder, just 3 sophomores that'll all, likely have impact innings on the mound for them. But then we look at the lineup, right? They bring back Trey Myers and Ben Toft, 2 of the best players in the state, and they've both been with the Trevians since they were sophomores. So, they got depth on both sides of the ball, and I think Dusty's got a really good squad he's working with. And they got a ton of catching depth, too, actually, with Nick Sitchell and Mason Bloom. So, yeah, I'm just looking at the roster right now. There's a ton of depth to go around and a ton of really good names that we like.
Yeah. Bloom should be in the outfield for him, but no, you mentioned the depth. Nick Sitchell for sure, he's one going to Richmond,
Bentavanga,
and then no, you're good. Jake Bentavanga, as well. Potent bat there. Just listening to you talk, they are a deep lineup. They've got some impact, lefty, righty, bats in the lineup. The one guy that they will lose, I know on the mound, Max Kaplan, huge loss. you felt good with him taking the ball against any team in the state. I really, really like James Novakovic. They had him at shortstop last year, left-hand hitting shortstop. He will no longer be with them. So like every team, no team is just like perfect, bringing back everybody except maybe Pravi. But no, like every team's gonna have gaps and holes to fill. New Trier, I think shortstop will be kind of one of those positions. It's like, okay, who is gonna fill that role? How are they gonna do? Could impact, the ceiling of this club. Um, and if we're kind of good there with New Trier, we can keep moving through the list here. Man, we're talking about the top 10 teams in the state now. Like we could talk on these teams for days. And it should be really fun to kind of see. What I love is like see how this maps out throughout the year, go back at the end, see, all right, who did we miss on? Who did we really hit on? What team's not in the Power 25 that, we can kind of kid ourselves like what were we thinking not putting them in there. But Manuka is coming in at number 9 this year. And they're a really, really intriguing squad for me. Like I feel like they've got a lot of pieces. They've got some two-way guys, guys that will impact their lineup with the bat and on the mound, which can create some dynamics at times. I think like to have that many two-way guys, then you want to make sure you have depth positionally because like I look at the left side of their infield. They have Braden Zillis, who is I guess shortstop, second base. He can kind of play all over the infield, but he'll probably man shortstop and pitch. So I think that creates some dynamics on like arm health and like, okay, can he always play short when he's not pitching? And then you got CJ DeKinga, who plays third base and pitches. So he'll be doing a little bit of both. But man, I love left-handed Zane Caves. He's one of my picks to click in just that 2026 class. They have him as well on the mound. And I'll open it up to you guys to talk through more of the club there, and I'm sure I'll have some things to say.
Yeah, I mean, Brayton Zillis, he was a first-team All-Stater for us last year. He was kind of their ace. Had a 0.5 ERA in 48 innings. And we had him as a two-way All-Stater. So, he had a great year with the bat as well. So yeah, he's kind of leading that rotation, and then we got Zane Caves, like you said, the really good southpaw. He'll be upper 80s. We're really confident in him this year, and then DeKinga. He's primarily a position guy, but he can really pitch too. He pitched at the future games for us a little bit, and then we got Sean Sample, Cam Rujewicz, Isaac Goddard. Those guys are all just coming out of the pen, so there's depth, and a lot of those guys will be playing roles on the other side of the ball as well. But yeah, Zillis. Going back to Zillis, he hit 407 last year. We're fully expecting him to, repeat his success this year. And then I know you had mentioned kind of the infield, Drew. We got Jason Dewey as well, a junior that we've really liked in the past. He saw time last year for them as a sophomore, and he's a really good defensive middle guy as well. And then just some other names we like. We like Isaac Goddard, and we like Carter Lennington, a Lincoln Land commit. So they got names up and down. We're really confident in them this year.
Red Harris at first base is a power bat that we've seen. I really like the swing. We talked just moments ago about like, okay, players that every team's going to lose and have to replace. Like St. Lawrence lost Jamison Martin, who's playing as a freshman for Minnesota and, holding his own up there. But Manuka, they lost a draft. They lost Nate George, who was one of the most impactful position players in the state last year. Could kind of do it all. Hit for average, hit for power, and also ran the bases really well. Played a really good center field. So, hey, they're going to have to replace that. We're going to have to see how it looks. But I love Manuka on paper and what it looks like. And, Zane Caves being that PO who also plays 3 sports. Could be a breakout year for him because I felt like in 2024 he just continued to trend the right direction every time we saw him. So it may take him a while to get going coming off football, basketball, everything he's got, but it's all about prepping for that middle of May postseason run anyway. So Manuka, number 9, moving through the list here. We've got Lamont at number 8. And I think going through this, like they were one club that last year we probably just did not give enough love to early in the year, throughout the year, and they went on and kind of under the radar made a really good postseason run, made it to state, and and they bring back a lot of the pieces that they had last year for that state run. Like Jacob Parr, to me, is one of my favorite guys. It's just been a double arrow up, a left-hand hitting outfielder they have, but they've got some pieces on the mound. They've got just an overall a very, very balanced, solid group.
Yeah, 100%. Like kind of touching on it earlier, like the cool thing with this Power 25 is like looking at the end of the year, who's going to emerge? That was Lamont for us last year, right? Like they went all the way to state for 3A. They ended up getting second, losing to Crystal Lake Central. But Lamont brings back pretty much everyone from that team, and I think that's why like we're so high on them to start this year. Just on the mound too, like Shea Glotzbach is a guy that really popped for me at Illinois State games. I'd never seen him until that point, and that's likely going to be the ace of their staff, and he's also going to hit in the middle of their lineup. So they've got him. They've got Cannon Madej, a left-handed pitcher who's going to give them innings. Matt Devoy. Devoy and Glotzbach are both going to Missouri St. Louis. So they've got talent up and down the roster. Brett Tucker's another bat we really like. So I've actually got a little bit more to say on Lamont later in the show, so I'm not going to spoil all of that. But, yeah, we really like Lamont. They've got a lot coming back this year.
I think their biggest question or piece to replace is going to be behind the plate. Losing Noah Tamaris, he was a multi-year starter for them. I think since his sophomore year, he was kind of manning that position behind home. So we'll see what happens there in Lamont. But, bright 2025 ahead, just looking at them on paper. And then let me make sure that I'm getting back to the right spot here so we can keep moving through the list. But next up, number 7, which all these teams are intriguing, but like this team is ultra intriguing to me. They've got an influx of new players coming on their roster this spring, but Normal Community, they look to me at least, and I know we all, agreed on how we rolled this out, but they look like they've got the most complete, most talent, most impactful lineup in Central Illinois. And just up and down, I think positionally really is where I get like most excited with them. And if they can get enough on the mound, I think they're going to be an ultra dangerous club. But they were 33-4 last year. I mean, they were a mainstay in our, top 10 of our Power 25. And they lost a really good arm in Ethan Eberly. And they lost a couple other senior arms. Brady Bankston was one. But Ethan Eberly, man, like he dominated. He basically struck out the world is what it seemed like. Every time he took the ball, he was double-digit strikeouts. And really didn't even matter how many innings he was throwing. If he threw, 3+, he was striking out double digits. But what do we got on Normal Community?
Yeah, I mean, they lost Eberly, like you said, but they bring in Gavin Swartz, Indiana commit, and if he can kind of become that ace for Community, I think they're going to be a pretty strong team. And they have Jonah Roper coming back. He was injured, but he's coming off injury this year. He will be back, and he's like a mid-upper 80s guy that we've seen before. They've got Luke Clunky, mid-80s guy as well. And then, offensively, you got Kyle Beatty coming back. He's kind of your leader. He's their shortstop. And then you've got Gavin Michaels transferring in. And I think that middle infield is probably going to be one of the best in the state with Beatty and Michaels. And then, they're always going to have arms that maybe we haven't seen. And, you've got 2 good catchers in Drew Stevens and Max Heineman. And Swartz can hit, too. Like, he'll probably play first base, DH a little bit for them. But, they've got a lot of talent on this roster. And they're going to be a team that's probably going to win a lot of games again this year, I would assume.
Yeah, one of the best infields in the state, especially when you factor in the catchers. Drew Stevens continues to get better. He showed off a lot of power at the preseason All-State. He had some arm strength behind the plate. And I think, Heineman is probably versatile enough to play multiple positions, or one of them will DH, one of them will catch. And you said it, Swartz swings the bat a little bit too. I like the bat, left-handed hitter. So a very, very interesting club this year that ceiling-wise is probably one of the higher ceilings in the state. I think it'll all just kind of depend on how they come together. But they were 18-0 in conference last year. I've got high hopes for them. And I think, really it'll be what happens on the mound and maybe a couple guys who can step up in the outfield. But definitely a team to know across the state and one of the ones we are highest on coming into this year. But now at number 6, we went with Brother Rice. So Brother Rice under Coach McBride, like there gosh, no shortage of success, I would say. Like he made it to state 2 years ago. Um, Last year was, I think, an anomaly for them. They were 20-18. They were very young positionally, and I just looking at their club, like they bring back so much. And some of those young guys are now old, but what's really crazy is like there's even younger guys now coming up that are extremely, extremely talented. So they've got some names on the mound that I think will, be more than good enough to compete. And then positionally, they're one of the more balanced, deeper lineups in the state, I would say.
Yeah, not to one up Gavin or anything here. I know he touched on normal communities, middle infield, but my money, man, Brother Rice has the best shortstop second base duo in the or not in the country, in the state. Sorry, with Gavin Triesenberg
No
and Jackson.
country, let's get aggressive. Like,
But I mean, with
that's
Triesenberg and Natanic, like both of those guys can absolutely pick it, and you could really do whatever you want. You could flip them at short and second, and there probably wouldn't be a ton of drop off either way. Like if I had to guess, like Triesenberg's probably going to be at short, and Natanic will be at second to save Natanic's arm because he's also a pitcher for Brother Rice. Like he's likely going to be their closer this year, but there is talent up and down the roster. Like, and it's spread out too. Like there's a good amount of seniors, good amount of juniors, and good amount of sophomores. And like the sophomore class is really exciting. Like they've got Brady Cunningham, who might end up being the number one on the team. And he can also swing it. Like he's a super strong kid for a sophomore. Like you got Colin Campbell, like who's a middle infielder going to Louisville, but he might not even play middle infield this year. But like they'll find a spot for him because the kid can hit. You've also got Aiden Dillon, Gavin Stanislawski, Anthony Cardilano. All those guys are sophomores, and they're all going to play on varsity this year and play big roles. But like they also have Braden McKendrick on the mound, like a really good southpaw. They get Tag Callahan back. They'll have Danny Sheehan in that senior class as well. So, man, there's no shortage of talent on this year's Brother Rice team.
I mean,
what.
it speaks to
Oh,
the
get in there,
depth.
Hannah. Sorry.
No, yeah, sorry. It speaks to the depth they have to where they can just throw Natanic into the closer role. Like, no, we don't need you to eat like 50 innings on the mound. Like, you can just go throw, just the last inning when we're ahead. Like, we don't need you to be that guy that helps lead us on the mound. He's a legit arm. Like, he can really spin it. He was up to 90, 91 maybe, at least 90 at our pro case. And he's a real arm, and they don't even need him to start. So that just says a lot to me.
Yeah, and he'd probably start almost any other school in the state.
Oh, he'd be the ace at a lot of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
No, and that's why they are where they're at in our rankings. And the beautiful thing of it too is like, okay, this year when they go to Natanic late in the game, like they really shouldn't have to mess around with their infield. If Nojava is playing third, if Natanic, was playing second, Colin Campbell will slide right in there, and he can really, really play. Like it, it's it even gives them more flexibility if they wanted to mess around with their infield. If they wanted to move Nojava somewhere, and play Natanic or somebody or Triesenberg at third and get Campbell in, like they're gonna have so much flexibility with the depth of their roster. That whether it's injuries, whether it's guys performing, like they're going to be able to mix and match and get to their best lineup when the time comes. So no, Coach McBride has plenty to work with over there. And man, those 27s are extremely talented. So regardless of what happens this year, like the future is still bright, the next couple of years with the Crusaders. Coming in at number 5 is, I think I put it in my director's note on this team, but I think they feature one of the highest ceilings in the state. And it's Libertyville is who we went with at number 5. I know it's not a surprise. These have all been rolled out here by Wednesday, the full list and everything. But they were 26-10-2 last year. And I wouldn't say it's like as deep of a club as maybe Brother Rice, 1 to 9 positionally, and even outside of that, like guys that they'll have coming off the bench. But wow, their starters and their top are really, really interesting. So I won't steal the thunder of you guys if you wrote up this team, but plenty to touch on here.
Sure. I mean, yeah, their starting pitching is ridiculous. We'll start with Josh Holst. I mean, recently uncommitted, still on the market, but he's gonna be he's got Power Five, Power Four potential. Like he'll pitch Division One for sure. Big fastball. Last year he had a 1.4 ERA, struck out 86 people in 50 innings. So I mean, it's just a bullying fastball. Like he does not. He is right at you in the zone. He'll challenge you, and he'll get swing and miss just with the fastball. So we really like him. And then Chase Lockwood. He was a sophomore. Josh is a senior this year, but Chase is he was a sophomore last year, and he saw a ton of time too. He threw 52 innings for him, and he had a 0.6 ERA. So I mean, he had a huge role for them last year, and he will play likely just as big, if not bigger, of a role this year. And then a nice little number three, they got Anthony Fry going to Illinois Wesleyan. He had 24 innings last year. I believe he got hurt, so his season got cut a little short, but he had a 0.8 ERA. And then, oh, by the way, they got 95 with Brady Bunick as a sophomore. Like, that kid, he was the X factor that I chose for them, because if he is able to even, like, give us a portion of what we think he can do, he is going to be massive for them. He is going to, like, I mean, man, 95 as a sophomore is pretty much unheard of. I mean, he gave us, like, the loudest showing, at least the loudest showing I've ever seen at that event. And man, if he can even like I said, give us a portion of what we think he can be, they are going to be special amount and super deep as well. And then even, I mean, I'm sure. Go ahead, Drew.
No, you're getting in on all the right stuff here. I mean, reliever wise, like Steven Gavrick's sitting back there as like their ninth arm, and he's a
Yeah,
Division 1 wide receiver football commit, who has been like mid upper 80s and easy for us with like long levers. It's like who like he could be 86, 90 this spring and just pitch, ho hum midweek games. Like they have a lot of guys to choose from. Ryan Wilberding's one that I'm, watching as young guys that they have kind of helping fill out this lineup. Because I would say, like, if you want to nitpick Libertyville and their weakness, like, they've got to fill out the back half of this lineup. Brock Williams is a guy that we've known for a while, but it looks like recently he's turned into more of a football recruit, like big time tight end recruit. And Tyler, I know you're a Nittany Lions fan, and I believe they might be on him for football. But we'll see what he can do on the baseball field this year. And I love the Lockwoods. They're just baseball players. Like they are going to be very strong up the middle. Quinn Shambo is as dynamic as it gets behind the plate, like shutting down the running game, stealing outs by being able to throw behind guys. Um, Brady Bunick, you mentioned it. Like we'll see. Like I don't know. I like ranking Libertyville where we rank them, even if it was without Brady Bunick. And then you throw Brady Bunick in the mix, and it's like if this guy comes in and can actually, control his arsenal and throw strikes and repeat and handle the running game and all that stuff, like it's the most dynamic stuff potentially in the Midwest, for that class, that age. Now we love Caden Wozniewski, but man, him and Brady Bunick are two highly, highly talented sophomores. So I may have missed something. I may have kind of doubled up already on stuff you talked about, Pete. But no, this is by
no,
far, I think, the most talent Coach Thompson's had over there.
yeah. And then they got Nico Harper, another junior. He's just a lefty up to 87, ho hum. Like another one they'll just run out in the bullpen. But no, I love Wilberding, and like you said, I really like the Lockwoods. Even Chase, like I think he can really swing it. He's a nice little middle infield option. And then even Josh Holst, like he'll hit in the middle of their lineup, and
Yes.
he's got a ton of juice
Yes.
from the left side.
Well,
So
and like a guy like Madden Kotz, we saw at the preseason All State, like left-handed hitting infielder. It's like if they
yeah,
needed a guy, he could maybe come up, but who knows? Like they may not need him. He's a 27. Um, so a lot of pieces there.
yeah. And then there was a lot of 27s that we saw this winter that we really like. So like they're gonna be good for a while.
Yeah.
But no, I really liked writing up this team and seeing kind of the pieces they had. So yeah, I'm pretty confident in that they'll make a pretty deep run this year.
And then at number 4, just moving right along, was probably one of the biggest sleepers, or maybe not sleeper, but surprises from last year, McHenry. They went 30-8 last year, made a deep run in the postseason, and a lot of it had to do with a freshman impact player in Caden Wisniewski, who I just mentioned. But Tyler, get in here on this club looking at 2025.
Yeah, I think there's a real common theme here with these top teams and its arms. You saw it last year, like a team like Conant made it all the way to state because they had two lethal arms in Bryce Loger and Franklin Kirchner. McHenry's got an unreal 1-2 punch with Brandon Shannon and Caden Wisniewski. Like, for me, Wisniewski was the X factor when I wrote him down. Like, he batted 487 last year as a freshman on varsity in that conference. Like, that's ridiculous. And he might be an even better arm. Like, that's how good he was with the bat. Similar to Libertyville, like, they lost some college bats. I think that would be my biggest question mark with this team, is just filling out the back half of the lineup. But, like, they've also got Carver Cone, who's going to be on varsity from day one as a freshman. He's the number 1 player in the state right now for us for that freshman class. He's uber talented from both sides of the plate, can really play defense out there in center field as well. But, you know, another guy that might be a sleeper is Landon Clements on the infield, like, guy who really showed well for us earlier this winter. And, like, I've already touched on Shannon and Wisniewski, but they've also got a guy like Bryson Elbrecht, who I'm a huge fan of, who will likely be the 3 for them. But, like, when they get into tournament time, like, he's going to be awesome to have to come out of the pen for either of those guys if they need it. So, there's even more arms to touch on. Like, they've got a guy like Scotty Cole, who, Drew, I know you were a huge fan of at our McHenry preseason ID. They've got Zach Reddy. They've just got a ton of talent. Like I said, the biggest question mark for me just when I was writing them up was probably the back half of the lineup. But, man, they've got a really good team.
Well, Scotty Cole was just, he came out of the woodworks this winter, like a mid-80s fastball with good spin on the off speed. And it was one of those things where it's like, you got to be kidding me. McHenry has another, like, legitimate arm. And then I know he also showed well as a position guy. So just a perfect depth guy there for McHenry that they'll have to lean on. And you listen to Libertyville, they've got all these arms. They've got some big velo in Bunick, and they've got, the catcher in Quinn Shambo. Looking at McHenry, okay, who can handle Brandon Shannon? Who can handle Caden Wisniewski? Like, that is a big question. They've got a catcher in AJ Chavera, who's committed to Rock Valley. So they've got a college catcher that, to me, who's playing up your middle? And I really like what McHenry has there. And now we're getting into the top 3. So I know a lot of talking here on these teams, but man, these top 3 I think are very, very strong. They were strong last year. They don't lose a ton, and they bring back a lot, and they bring up a lot, I would say, as like these young guys coming through in some of these systems. But, one team that had a huge year last year that I really like at number 3 is Lincoln Way West. And we've talked about it here now, Hammett. I know you wrote them up, but pitching being paramount. Libertyville, McHenry, I think that's, why we really, really liked them. And Lincoln Way West, like, maybe just as strong, on the mound with who they pump out there, with Connor Essenberg, and then you've got Michael Pettit, and you've got Lucas Acevedo. 3 highly, highly capable arms. So fill me in on the rest. Why, maybe even about those 3 arms, but wow, that's quite the trio just to lead off.
Yeah, I mean, they got a ton of arms, like you said. I mean, Essenberg's one of those guys, like, he's towards the top of the list for someone I would pick to go win me a game right now. And he's got a ton of ceiling left, too. I think he's a really, really intriguing and dynamic prospect on both sides of the ball. So he's going to impact them greatly on both sides. Same with Lucas Acevedo. Lucas will play shortstop for him, and he's an arm that we really like as well. He's got 3 pitches for strikes. He'll throw a ton of strikes. He'll be around 90 miles an hour. And then, like you said, Pettit, I mean, he didn't throw a ton for him last year, right? He kind of came up towards the end, like in the playoffs. So it's an expanded role for him this year, but we have a ton of confidence in him. We think he's going to, make an impact greatly for him. And then they got, like, numerous college arms throughout this. We got Adam Girl going to Parkside. Tyler Bartley going to Rock Valley, and then Anthony Vita. He was a name that Coach thinks is going to play a big role for them on both sides of the ball. He's going to Drury, and then Alex Macias going to St. Xavier. So they got depth. They got high-end talent and depth. That's important. So, and then the lineup, I mean, like we said, Essenberg and Acevedo, they'll kind of lead that lineup. And then we got Jackson Mansker, too. He's a player that we liked a lot over the years. He's ranked number 95 in the state. Ian Hazlip, state gamer. I mean, they got talent up and down, and they had a great year last year, winning over 30 games. So we're really high on them.
I'm a huge fan of Lincoln Way West coming into this spring, and I don't think you get much better than having those top-end two lefties there, and Connor Essenberg and Michael Pettit. And you mentioned Pete, like he didn't throw a ton last year, but they went to him in the playoffs in a do-or-die game, and I saw him show really good stuff, and then he just kind of continued to do that throughout 2024. Like, I have really, really big expectations for Michael Pettit. I think he's going to be an arm that, come the end of the spring, like, we're probably going to need to collect his stats for, all state considerations. And then Lucas Acevedo, like you mentioned, both he and Essenberg have been varsity impact guys for 3 years now. So they are no stranger. They've got unfinished business. Like they lost to Pravi in the playoffs. Pravi goes on to win state. So I'm sure there's plenty of motivation down there in the Frankfort, New Lenox area. Number 2, Edwardsville. Should not be any surprise. Maybe the only surprise is that they're number 2 and not number 1. But Edwardsville made it to state once again last year. I feel like they have been to Joliet pretty much every year over the last 6-7 years, and they've taken home the crown a couple times as well. Coming into last year, they had won 2 straight. So they were 32-9. They ended up getting 3rd place last year, but I mean, there's really not much to talk about as far as weaknesses with this group. Like they have talent coming through that program every year. They're another team that, like, despite being a mainstay towards the top, like you go watch them play, they'll always have a guy or two in their lineup that like we don't know about. Whether it's their multi-sport guy or they just, haven't been to something. But their impact in their lineup, and he goes about, like, I feel like 20 deep when it comes to their position players and the different lineups he can choose. And then you look at their arms this year, I mean, they're loaded, and they lost Joe Chiroto, who's arguably their most talented prospect. He's a senior this year. They lost him right before playoffs last year. He was their impact center fielder, also their number 1 on the mound, and they make it to state. They didn't lose anything, going into the playoffs. So sorry, Gav. I know I'm probably stealing some of your thunder here, but what else do you have there? Because I know Joe Chiroto's back, ready to roll.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of hit it on the head there, but just writing this team up, like they probably have one of the deepest pitching staffs in the state. You have your 3 starting pitchers in Joe Chiroto, Chase Milburn, who was kind of their ace last year. He went 10-0 with a sub-1 ERA, and they have Tony Eberlin, who we just saw up to 90, but he was 7-2 last year. And then you look at kind of their relievers, and they've got Hunter Ball, Tyler Powell, Ethan Stewart, Dax Dunnell, all guys that are going to be in the mid-upper 80s. And then you've got other guys that Coach Funk listed in here, Eric Herman, Tristan Lance, Tyler Rudd, Gavin Impanus, I think is how you say it, Impanus maybe. But
sounds perfect.
Yeah, all seniors, and they're gonna just have a lot of depth. And the way Coach Funk coaches, I'm sure that their pitchers are going to be guys that are going to attack. They're going to throw strikes. They're going to know what to do in different game situations. And then at the plate, the same thing. Like, they're going to be a very well-coached team. And you look at guys like Lucas Krebs, who's their shortstop, committed to Illinois. Grayson Rathgeb, outfielder, going to Maryville. And then obviously Chiroto is a 2-way, so he's going to be back this year playing the outfield for them when he's not on the mound. And, like, they just have so many guys that will do the right thing for them because they're coached the right way. They know how to play the game, and yeah, they're gonna win some games this year because of their pitching. But then also they're gonna have guys that they get on base. They're gonna steal bases. They're gonna play the game right.
Goodness, you mentioned the the depth on the staff, but then you look at their roster preview that I was just kind of pulling up as you're talking here. It's like every guy is going to play college baseball. All their depth guys are college baseball players. And then they have young guys coming through the mix as well. So I mean, we talked about it a little bit in the beginning, but coaches in high school baseball, I feel like, play a huge factor. And Coach Funkhauser is going to have an extremely deep, talented team to work with. He's going to be able to mix and match the arms. Hunter Ball is, like, to me, one of my favorite players in the state. What he can do as a position player at shortstop, but then what he could give them on the mound. Like, you know what you're going to get every time out. He's going to pound the zone. He's going to have a ton of moxie. He's going to hold the running game. He's going to just do all the little things. So really excited to see what the Tigers can do, and we're going to get our first looks at them at the Kickoff Classic against some good teams, which Coach Funkhauser never shies away from playing, the best competition he can, and he's typically kind of kicking himself jokingly at the Kickoff Classic because he always schedules the toughest Chicago teams that he can find. He wants to play the best. He wants to get tested, and he has the depth and the arms to match up with anybody. So, Edwardsville, they were kind of like the 1B, is kind of the way I looked at it for this year. And then at number 1A, or our number one team in the preseason Power 25, is Providence. Providence Catholic, coming off the 4A state title. They also, are no stranger to state. Like, they won 3 state titles in a row back in the 2000 teens. I don't know if that's the right way you say that or not,
I
but they
love
did
it.
it. Yeah, one of the more impressive things I have seen take place in Illinois high school baseball since I've been doing this is winning 3 straight state titles. But they got back on the horse last year, won another title, and goodness gracious, they hardly lost anybody coming into this year. So you look at these teams, I think the first thing we always look at is like, all right, who did they lose? Like, who do they have to replace? And then what do they have? And these guys were ultra talented last year and really did not lose much. So Tyler, get into this squad a little bit here.
Yeah, I think they returned 7 of the starting 9 that started in that title game last year. And not to mention, they bring back their 3 best arms in Cooper Eggert, Nate O'Donnell, and Casson Gobert. So it just felt right. I think we all just kind of agreed like we had to put them at number 1 to start the year. Like, when you hardly lose much and you won state, like, this is a team that knocked out Edwardsville last year too. So they had that head-to-head kind of going for them. I know that's last year, but just absolutely loaded. I mean, they've got my pick for player of the year on this show, and Enzo Infelice. Like, guy came to our pro case and just continues to rake every time we see the guy. Cooper Eggert for me was the X factor for them. Just the two-way abilities, like, he essentially was their ace last year. He can also be really dynamic in the outfield and really athletic left-handed bat towards the top of the lineup as well. And then, not to mention, like, Nate O'Donnell's back, and he was the CCL Blue Player of the Year last year at third base. We'll also pitch for him. What's nice about O'Donnell is he can give them flexibility. He can start, and he can also relieve. Like, he came in to close the title game last season, and then Casson Gobert was, like, maybe their best arm down the stretch. Like, he really came into his own for the playoff run last year. Drew, I know, I want to say you saw him when they knocked off Lincoln Way West.
It seemed like he took the ball in all their big games in the postseason and just performed. Just kind of owned the moment, tons of strikes, and there's just a ton of upside in him as a prospect, like long levers, and yeah, through a bunch of huge games for them. So I'm a big fan of Casson. Like, to me, he's a guy that should only continue to get better and build off of what he did last year. And yeah, that was a bit of a surprise, but gosh, you love to see, like, players step up in big moments. And he was certainly one of them. But, like, Eddie Olsta's another guy that I really like for them. That's a super impact bat. They're like 3 or 4 deep behind the plate too on the options that they can use. And then I think that gives them so much flexibility with Enzo. Like, they can do whatever they want with Enzo, playing third, playing first. I think Coach Smith even mentioned he might play a little short this year if they had to. He also can come on the mound and pitch, and he's got a ton of arm strength. So just a couple guys that I was, personally eyeing, and some things that I had with their club as well.
And then one last name I want to throw in there was Sam Webb, who I think's probably going to start for him on varsity this spring. I don't know where he might catch. He could probably play some infield as well, but strong right-handed bat. Pete, I know he showed well for you at our preseason All-State, so that's just another guy they've got coming up. Just speaks to the luxury of the talent they have there. So that's what I got on Pravi.
And I don't want to completely discredit guys that they lost last year because they did lose a very impactful senior in Jackson Smith, who's now at Bradley. I loved the left-handed swing; he could really, really run. But when you have as many pieces as they have, it almost seems like, all right, well, the next guy, next man up mentality, and should be a very, very, very competitive club this year, looking to repeat off of what they did last year. So. Gavin, I think that's the Power 25 kind of in a nutshell. Now, I think we all know, and you would say too, like this is not an easy thing we do. I love doing it. It's super educational. I think like as you dig into these teams and you really, really look at them, you get such a better appreciation for what they really have on their roster. It also gets me very excited for the spring. But then at the same time, like we're only choosing 25 teams. I know there's a ton of teams out there that we talk through that maybe didn't make the cut. Maybe they should have. Maybe we missed on them. But there's plenty of teams like just outside the top 25 that should be paid attention to. We should know. Maybe worth mentioning. Like one team right out of the gate, just as far as teams to watch that I had a tough time with not ranking, but they made a bit of a surprising run last year in the postseason was 3A Crystal Lake Central. They ended up winning the 3A state title last year. Unbelievable postseason run that they went on. You love to see teams do it. It kind of reminded me of what Plainfield East did a few years back with Brady Lauk. They entered the postseason kind of 500 under 500 and made a run. Crystal Lake Central was the same deal. Like I think they might have been right at 500, Gavin. But then they end up going on winning 3A state, and that was kind of where we were at. Like they lost some guys from last year. They were 500 going into the postseason. So hey, they're a team that we're gonna watch. But we did not, pull the trigger and put them in the Power 25. Who are some other teams that you guys maybe had that you really like coming into this year that we did not put in the Power 25?
Yeah, I can just kind of kick it off first with a few. Like Dunlap, for me, they won 28 games last year. They won their conference. And they returned like almost every guy from last year's team, including some really good pitching that they kind of relied on last year. Ottawa Marquette, we'll get into them a little bit later. St. Joe Ogden, a 32-win season, won their conference. They probably lost their two like most impactful players positionally, in Luke Landris and Braxton Waller. But they still have a ton of quality depth coming back, both on the mound and positionally. Washington won 24 games last year. Again, they returned some of their better players from last year's team, and they're going to be pretty senior heavy this year. Morton, they always win a lot of games, and they return their ace, Ryan Schaffnet, who had a really good season last year, just throws a ton of strikes. Galesburg will have some good arms this year in 2025, and they won 21 games last year. And then Normal U High, they have some arms that we've seen this preseason that are mid-upper 80s guys, and then they have some college commits in their senior class too that will add some positional depth for them as well.
I was also eyeing a few others like O'Fallon. I know we went down and did our Southern Illinois St. Louis preseason ID winter event a couple weeks ago, and like they had a couple pieces to kind of add on to what we already knew about them. But like I thought Asher Cantu keeps going the right direction. They've got Connor Blue, one of the top, draft arms in the state, kind of leading the way with them or for them on the mound. They have Dane Haraski and Trey Haraski as well. Like they've got a lot of interesting pieces down there at O'Fallon. Carson Bauer, left-hand hitting middle infielder. Lake Zurich is one that I'm just kind of eyeing. A team to watch. I think in the best. Gosh, I don't know the right way to put it, but like that fits them perfectly. Like they are one to be on the radar. It's a new coach, Mike Manos over there. He had been the Nazareth AD after leaving St. Viator as their head coach, but he's back now coaching. And anybody that kind of knew his St. Viator clubs, like they could always compete. He loves to run the bases. He loves to score in a million different ways. He really knows the game. He really knows how to just utilize the team and all the substitution rules and everything like that. But like Lake Zurich's got talent. They've got Dylan Fogelsong at shortstop. They've got a lot on the mound. They've got pieces all over. So that's just one I'm eyeing. They're coming off an 18-12 year last year. They've got a couple young pieces too, and like Carson Hamblin, and we saw Alex Toth this offseason and some others. St. Charles North, Coach Genke over there, like they're always good. We ended up going with St. Charles East in our Power 25 this year. Like St. Charles North was definitely one that we were talking about. That should be a really good rivalry game when they match up this year. But they've got Keaton Reinke. They've got plenty of guys to know. Matt Ritchie's another one. That's a 2027 that could play an impact on that team. Mason Netzel is a really balanced shortstop for them that they have. There's others as well. So just a few I was eyeing there.
Yeah, I mean, in my time doing this, there's some teams you just always got to watch for, right? Like St. Charles North kind of falls into that category. Lockport is another one. They always got a ton of talent running through, and they went 20-13 last year. I know they had some younger guys, so they'll be looking for them to kind of fill up or, step up and take on bigger roles this year. But looking at the West Suburban Conference, specifically the gold side, I'm sorry, would that be the silver side? I played in the conference and I'm not even sure. I can't even remember. Downers Grove North, Lyons Township, York, and OPRF. They're all on the silver side. It's silver side for sure. Silver side, just 4 teams that are all, coming off good years. I mean, Downers Grove North, they won 30 games last year. They bring back some good pieces, but I know they lost like their Jimmy Janikis of the world. But they'll still have a good-looking club. Lyons Township, they got a couple big-time arms. That we're talking about arms all podcasts. I mean, they got Tucker King and Jack Slidham, 2 big-time arms, and they got more depth behind that. York, I mean, they lose Ryan Sloan, but they won 31 games last year, and they've been sneaky good for the past 3 years. So one to watch. And OPRF, they got one of the more talented lineups in the state. So with them, it's just kind of a matter of can they pitch it. So they're good. All 4 of them are good bubble teams. Would not be surprised to see any of them pop into the Power 25 soon with a good start.
Your call out on York is an awesome call out. I think we have never, not given them enough credit the last couple of years, and all they do is make it to state. Coach Kalal did a great job with those guys over there. That's a really good call out. Tyler, are there any teams on here that you're eyeing as well?
Yeah, a few teams that I saw last year that might, like, Mundeleин's one that just kind of jumps off the page to me. Like, I remember, Drew, we talked last year after I saw them, and I'm like, man, like, they were just pretty young, like, might be a year away. Well, this is, that next year. They were 23-8 last year. They split that conference title with Libertyville last spring. So they bring a lot back. They get a guy like Caden Earring back on the mound for him, who did not pitch last year, I believe, due to injury. So they'll get him back, which will be a nice little addition. He's going to St. Louis. He's a good arm. He was a future gamer for us a couple years back. But they've also got guys like Nick Zaloni and Johnny Weiss up the middle, who I think both can really defend. So Mundelein's a really interesting team for me. And then, like, next team is Sycamore. Saw them last year. Now they do lose Kyle Hartman, who they had last year behind the plate. So they'll have to figure out the catching spot. But they've got some good arms. Like Tyler Townsend is back. He's likely going to be the ace of that staff. Jackson McDonald, guy who popped for us earlier this winter, that we're going to have to get out and see. And then they've also got a guy like Davis Colley who's going to bat in the heart of that lineup. So those are 2 teams right off the jump to me that were jumping off the page, but also a team like Lincoln Way Central. They went 24-7 last year, but you talk about giving the ball to somebody to win you a game. They've got Luke Menzik. He'd be right up there on my list personally of a guy, hey, do I need to win a game tomorrow? Who am I giving the ball to? It's Luke Menzik. But they've also got guys like Liam Marsich, Filippo Barada. Like, they've got a ton of talent always rolling through there as well. So they've got a new coach there with Coach Cutt. So it'll be interesting to see how the Knights do this spring.
And I was gonna say Lincoln Way Central because to me it's 2 Lincoln Ways, Lincoln Way East and Lincoln Way Central. Like, I think maybe going back the past 6 years or so, those are two teams that were pretty much mainstays in our Power 25. Now, I know Lincoln Way East, like losing Tyler Bell, who's, making a huge impact at Kentucky as a freshman, is a huge loss. But both Lincoln Ways, outside of Lincoln Way West, like Lincoln Way East and Lincoln Way Central, there's always talent coming through those programs, especially recently. So, like, it would not be a surprise if Lincoln Way East, quickly starts out hot, and there's guys that are playing for them that maybe we don't know about, and they deserve to be in the Power 25. So I'll be keyed in on them. Cary Grove, I think pretty much anybody in the Fox Valley you could pick out and be like, hey, you got to watch them. Now, the problem with the Fox Valley is they're all going to beat up on each other because it's such a loaded conference. Like, it's going to be very hard to win games in that conference. But I like the pieces that Cary Grove has on the mound, and specifically Charlie Tazzy. I just think he's got dynamic stuff with some of the best spin in the state. A sleeper team that I just want to throw out, St. Francis. Like, they've got some good pieces. They've got some guys. I know their coach does a good job. And whether it's Zach Medusa out over there playing shortstop, or James McGrath is a young guy to watch out for them as well. Highland out of Southern Illinois is a team that I think we need to watch. Chase Knable put up video game numbers last year for them. They also have Braxton Decker, a right-handed arm that I really like. He has had like some control questions in the past, to where if he's in the strike zone, Highland's going to have two really good arms that I think will win a lot of games down there. Lane Tech. Like, they're another program that just seems like they've got a ton of talent coming through their program constantly. Like, the hardest thing I think with them this year was just that they lost Sushi Wilson to IMG. Like, I think they very well could have been in the Power 25, but that's a huge loss. They do have a freshman over there that we're going to have to get our eyes on, Dodger Frericks. Big body. I want to say he's like 6'6", 6'7", and I've already seen video up to 90 as a freshman. So Lane Tech will have a very intriguing 2028 coming through the program. Glenbrook North, I mean, they're led by the number one player in our 2026 class, Ethan Bass. But they've got some pieces. We saw an arm from them who showed really well this winter. St. Rita's always tough. They were 25-13 last year. You never know what they could do this year as well. And then Conant was a team, I know we briefly talked about them earlier, but losing Bryce Loger is a huge loss. They also lost Jake Parpet, who is one of the better catchers in the state. They lost Logan Gale. They lost their left-handed hitting second baseman. Somebody help me with his name. Kale. It's gonna tick me off that I'm blanking on it, because I've got it on the tip of my tongue right now. But no, they lost some guys. But they made a run last year that kind of surprised us. We'll make sure that we're paying attention to them this year, to see what they have, because they definitely still bring back Franklin Kirchner. They bring back Jacob Spignowitz. And they'll definitely be one to watch. Arjun Patel as well. So,
Cooper Hansen.
With that name. There you go. Thank you, Tyler. All right. I was going to say Cale Hansen, but that's a left-handed hitter I really like for Grays Lake Central. So, Cooper Hansen was another one they lost. But if anybody else has any other names to throw out there as far as teams that maybe we didn't touch on, feel free.
Do you guys want to transition to the next segment here?
Let's do it.
All right. So with opening week of the IHSA, instead of doing our prospect of the week, we are each going to select a state champion, our prediction for state champions from class 1A through 4A. So we'll see how we do at the end of the year on this. This will be interesting. But I feel pretty good about my picks. I don't know about you guys. I'm feeling pretty confident.
Well, I want to jump in here and put the disclaimer that we decided as a group to not choose the same team. So we're all going to have 4 different teams for each class. So I did want to throw that out there. And then how do we want to do this? Do we want to go like by class and all of us just go around the horn? Okay.
Yeah, let's do that. So
I'll
Drew,
start
you
with
want
my
to pick us
1A.
off? Yeah.
I'm going to start with Route Catholic. They're a team that I feel like has been knocking on the door. They were 30-6 in 2023, and then last year they went 33-8. They've got plenty of talent up and down that roster, but I love the left-handed Brady Turner. Strike thrower, easy. to have a left-hander kind of leading the way on the mound, especially when you start talking about like 1A, man, if you can have 2-3 arms, like you're gonna do some damage. So Route Catholic, that's my pick to click here at 1A.
I'll go here. Father McGivney. Now I know it wasn't a draft, but I can't believe that I got them. They were 34-5 last year. I mean, they have one of the more like stacked lineups, regardless of class. Really, I mean, Omar Avalos, he's a sophomore that we really like. Super dynamic, super athletic kid. He'll run down fly balls and control that outfield for them. Cannon Camp going to SIUE. Drew Kleinheiter going to SLU. Justin Turhart going to UMSL. Then they got Mason Holmes going to Hendricks, and then they got more names throughout, like Isaac Wendler. He's a two-way that we've liked. Scott Phelps, Grant Reed, Ben Sink. I mean, they're just loaded. So it felt, feel pretty comfortable going with them.
Then I'll hop in. My pick is Harvest Christian. Listen, they lost to Ottawa Marquette last year 1-0 in the playoffs. Like, they were that close to, who knows, maybe being the state champion last year. So right out of the gate, their top two arms, Obed Lopez and Jamison Rapinchuk, like, both those guys, I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of the year they're both in the 90s, or at least touching 90 on the mound. Like, to have that type of arm talent in the 1A class is a luxury. They've also got a guy like Kyle Zeebel, who's going to just set it and forget it, put him at shortstop. He's going to play good defense for those arms. And then they've also got a guy like Ben Mitchell behind the plate, who's going to Lakeland, can really hit as well. He's got some big-time juice. So he'll also likely be their closer this spring. So, man, they've got some good talent coming through there for a 1A school.
You're making me want to change my pick. Jeez, that's loaded.
Can't have them.
And I'm going to go here then, Def, with Ottawa Marquette. They returned everybody but 3 guys from last year's 31-win team who won the 1A state title and the Tri-County Conference. Coach Hopkins always has those boys ready to play. They always are going to win a ton of games. And when you've got a guy like Alec Novotny who just continues to get better, especially on the mound, yeah, they just have a ton of depth in that lineup. And we've seen a lot of guys that this preseason that we like. So, yeah, this Ottawa Marquette team to me is probably going to win state, but we'll see.
All right. So getting on my my 2A pick to click this year, I will say it was hard. I've got some love for Coach Haley over there at St. Joe Ogden. I did not end up choosing them. I'm going to Teutopolis. Teutopolis was 23-12 last year. They lost. One of the reasons that I really wanted to choose them was they lost to St. Anthony last year in the sectional final 2-1. So that was the 2A state title winner last year. There's some unfinished business there, kind of like what I talked about with Lincoln Way West and Pravi, how they lost to them in the sectional final. Teutopolis, same thing. They're going to be motivated. They've got a bunch of arms. You talked about it with like Harvest Christian having Obed Lopez, Jamison Rapinchuk, but they've got Austin Bories, Gavin Addis, like they've got Mick Niabrugi, who was listed, kind of in like their top 6, and he's a big physical body that's upper 80s. It's like you don't see too many schools at the 2A level with those kind of arms. I feel like they're going to be, well-rounded enough positionally. They're going to have some 2A guys like Austin Bories is going to be, hitting in the middle of their order and some stuff like that. But I think Coach Fleener does a great job at Teutopolis. Like they are always a tough team, and I'm going the wooden shoes this year for 2A.
If we were doing a mascot draft, I would have probably taken them.
Yeah.
I almost went St. Joseph Ogden too, actually, but I went Columbia. There's just a lot to like with them. They went 24-8, and they got a ton of seniors coming back. I'm just going to kind of go down the list here. Cash Bailey coming back, hit 330. Sully Benaldi hit 270. Logan Bosch hit 276. Micah James hit 350. Jack Schoentag hit 320. Mason Vagley, brother of Dom, hit 270. Sam Darnold, 1.8 ERA. Brady Hemminghaus, 1.2 ERA, and then they got Brody Landgraf, future gamer for us, hit 291 last year. So, and he's a junior. He was a sophomore last year. So, ton of senior talent, and then with Brody Landgraf as well, Creighton commit. I think they are loaded, and I'm pretty confident in them going in this year.
And if I remember right, I think Landgraf was actually hurt a little bit of the season too. I don't think he played a complete season because I saw him at the Kickoff Classic.
Yeah, he only had 13
and I think he
RBIs.
got hurt shortly after that too.
Right.
So,
And I just think 291 for him, like you can go ahead and add 100 points to that and say that's the over underline to his batting average this year.
Yeah.
For me, 2A, I'm going with Wilmington. They got third at state last year. They went 28-2. Another team that brings back essentially a lot of that same roster. They're going to have Lucas Rink and Kyle Farrell at the top of that rotation, who are both going to go play college ball after this year. And like for me, if I was writing this team up, like I think a real X factor is Cooper Holman, who was a big winner for me personally at our preseason All-State. Like they may only need him to be their 3 this year. So a big luxury there. So I'm going with Wilmington for my 2A state champ.
Yeah, and then for me, I think this is actually just looking at this now. It's kind of boring that I'm doing this. 1A, I picked Ottawa Marquette, who won last year, and then for 2A, I'm picking St. Anthony, who also won last year. But it is tough to not pick them. I mean, they bring back Brock Fearday, Brady Hatton, and Aiden Lauritsen, who were all big contributors to their team last year. And I mean, Fearday's a really good arm to have in 2A. But yeah, I think they're going to be a good team again this year. And I kind of some of the dark horses I wanted to mention for 2A as teams that could also be in, because I had a tough time with this. Like 2A is always one of those, and 1A are kind of harder sometimes to pick because there will be those kind of random teams that just come through that maybe didn't have a great record going into the postseason, and then they just come out and have a really good postseason and get to state, and maybe we didn't know a ton about them prior. But some of those other teams I've got is Rock Ridge, Pleasant Plains, Teutopolis, Wilmington, and Tremont as some of my dark horses in 2A.
I'm loving the Rock Ridge call out and the Tremont call out. Like both those programs have a ton of talent for being a 2A. Yeah, that's solid. Is it back around to me already?
Yep, 3A,
All right.
Drew.
All right, we're starting 3A. So, a part of this has been a little unfinished business here. I think Morris has a little unfinished business, but that's who I'm going with 3A. They were 30-4 last year, made it to state. I saw one of their, 4 losses down at the Kickoff Classic. And it was a game where they were throwing a different arm every inning and kind of like showed off the depth that they had by getting to see all those different arms and what it may be. But just a very deep club with, some star power at the top with Jack Wheeler. But it's a lot of college players that are back with experience on the mound. You've got Brett Bounds. You've got Colin Pfeiffer, a left-hander. You've got Jack Wheeler, who could start or pitch out of the bullpen. You've got Merrick Clicker. And then positionally, like good up the middle is what I'm looking for. You've got Griffin Zwiers behind the plate. Very, very good catcher, can handle the staff, can also swing the bat. It's in the middle of their order. And then you got Zemi Baftieri playing shortstop. I think he's, one of the probably more underrated shortstops, and it may be even by us. Probably a guy that maybe is just a little underrated that we need to continue to give quality looks at. But I think they go about their business the right way. I think they're going to be hungry. Jack Wheeler coming off a big basketball season as well, where I know he's one of the best basketball players to come through Morris. I'm excited to see what they do this year.
I'll move on to St. Lawrence here. 31-6 last year. It's tough not to like them year in and year out. I mean, they're always going to be, they're one of those schools that's always well coached, kind of like, in my mind, like a JCA type, well disciplined. They won their conference, though. They won the Chicago Catholic Blue. So that's, arguably the toughest conference in the state. They won their regional. They lost in the sectional semifinal. But yeah, kind of like we mentioned earlier, they got a good 1-2 punch, and then they got arms behind that with Benson, Enrique Villanueva, Joseph Torres, Ryan Walschlager, the Pepperdine commit. Then we got some 2-ways that'll throw for them too with Daniel Coyle, Corey Less, and Mickey Lotus. But there's a lot of pieces that I like in the lineup. With, like I just said, Daniel Coyle and Corey Less. Less a Louisville commit. Coyle still uncommitted, but one of the better bat-to-ball guys in the state. And we really like Corey Less as well. Mickey Lotus was one of the bigger standouts for me from the preseason All-State. Switch hitter, I really like the swing. I think he'll be like a perfect table setter for them. Throughout in the top of the lineup, and then we got like Connor Marino, Ben Geary, who we've liked a lot in the past, Adrian Perez, Enrique Villanueva, like I said already, Danny Donovan, and John Medina. So there's a lot of names we like, and they got depth beyond that too, with like Aiden Guerrero going to McHenry County. So there's a lot of names, and we know they'll be well coached.
Just going off the theme of Drew here with the unfinished business. For me, it's Lamont. I'm taking Lamont to win 3A this year. 31-10. They lost the state championship game by 1 run. They were right there on the doorstep. I'm sure they're going to be very, very hungry to get back there and get the job done this year. But man, I just really like what they've got roster wise. Whether it's Gladbach on the mound and in the lineup, but like Jacob Parr, right? Big time left-handed hitter like Drew was talking about earlier. So for me, I have a hard time looking past Lamont for 3A.
Yeah, and then mine, I've got Joliet Catholic. They're just a team that's always good no matter the roster. Coach Voss, like you guys were talking about earlier, always does a good job with them. And then him, like you mentioned, they've got a plethora of arms that will be tough for any team that's facing them.
All right, we just had a late 4A switch by me.
Uh-oh.
I'm making sure I didn't choose one of your schools here real quick. No, perfect. So sticking with the unfinished business, I'm going with Lincoln Way West. And I think what really sold me and pushed me over the edge was as we were talking about him today. Like, Connor Essenberg leading the way on the mound, but with the bat as well. And then you've got Michael Pettit, who I love, left-hander. I think he's one of the top juniors in the state. But then as your 3 being Lucas Acevedo, who come playoff time, if you're throwing out 2 lefties, Essenberg and Pettit, you're starting them, and then you're backdooring them with Lucas Acevedo coming out of the pen, throwing the slider that he's got and the changeup. I think that's going to be really tough come playoff time. I think they're going to be hungry. I think they've got that unfinished business. I'm going Lincoln Way West.
Good call. But I'm going to go with Providence Catholic. They have historically liked to win multiple in a row, so it's hard to go against that. They won 3 in a row, 14, 15, and 16, so I like their chances, especially, bringing back basically everybody. But, just looking at Cooper Eggert, he was 3rd-team All-State last year, Nathan O'Donnell, 1st-team All-State for us, and then Enzo Infelice winning Tyler's preseason Player of the Year award that we might have to, start throwing around more. I like them. I like them a lot, so I got high hopes for them.
For me, I'm going McHenry. Listen, we touched on the having, really good top 2 arms. Man, Shannon and Wisniewski, I think, come playoff time are going to be really, really hard to beat. The way both of those guys have continued to get better with each watch. Like, Wisniewski's only a sophomore, but I saw him pitch in the playoffs last year, and no moment is too big for that kid. So for me, like they went 30-8 last year, and they got knocked out by Ryan Sloan last year, or else they might have been playing for state. So they were right there on the doorstep, and I think they get the job done this year.
And then to round this out here, I've got Edwardsville. They return a ton of pitching, probably the deepest pitching staff in the state. Joe Trotto's healthy again. He's back for the full year. And then positionally, they just look really talented again. Coach Funkhauser knows how to coach in the playoffs, and I just think they're gonna take it all again in 4A this year. So I got Edwardsville. But that rounds out episode 19 of the Bullpen. Excited to finally get high school baseball started and going out to games and seeing teams play again. So that'll be fun. I'm excited to see that this week. But yeah, appreciate you guys listening, and we'll see you next time.